Transformers, more than meets the eye. Transformers.
Yeah, very good morning to you. I'm Brian, and welcome to Brian's Beat, the only show born at the apex of freedom, entrepreneurship, and nomadism. It is a Saturday. The sun is shining brightly. We're looking for a nice, it's not fall, but a nice fall day today. ABC presented what they wanted you to know. Now it's my turn to do the same. Red Sox. Red Sox were up 4-0. Bottom of the seventh inning. Yankees scored 5 times. Final score 5-4. Same 2 teams today down in the Bronx. I did not expect the Patriots to win last Sunday, but they did. And now they've got Seattle in Foxborough tomorrow. We have 102 shopping days before Christmas. Can't you just see the snowflakes coming down now? Even police need housing. Mayor Mitchell wants to build a new police headquarters. He doesn't know where yet, but he knows he wants one. Instead of closing the Parker School, New Bedford Superintendent of Schools wants to convert the Parker School. More than 7,200 Bay Staters filed an unemployment claim last week. Still, household income in Massachusetts is up. Mosquitoes heading south. The Department of Public Health places Greater New Bedford under a high West Nile virus alert. The headline reads, CVS pharmacies can now prescribe birth control. Can the immigration issue propel John Deaton to victory over Elizabeth Warren? Violent gunplay continues around schools, and Bay State Democrats think they can stop it. More after the Brian's Beat quote of the day. Jim has a look at our Town Square Sunday for tomorrow. The Bitcoin Biz Barometer next half hour. Monthly FRX brings us the Brian's Beat quote of the day. After we learn just a little bit more about today, September 14th, 2024. It's Eat a Hoagie Day. Now, I don't know if there's any difference between a submarine or a hoagie, but it's Eat a Hoagie Day. Guess they don't say eat a submarine because somebody might look for a real submarine and try to eat it. Eat a Hoagie Day. Farmers Consumer Awareness Day. Try to figure that one out. Farmers Consumer Awareness Day. International Drive Your Studebaker Day. How many Studebakers are still out there? My guess is, I wasn't there this year, but my guess is at the Joe Jesus old car thing in downtown New Bedford, there was probably at least one Studebaker. Live Creative Day. Yeah, that's today. Live Creative Day. Let's be creative today. National Coloring Day. Now, it's a beautiful day. You'll probably be outside, and you won't be thinking much about coloring. Now, there might be some amateur painters or professional painters who like to dabble with colors outside on a day like today, but as far as just anybody coloring today, outdoors, even indoors, since it's a great day to be outdoors, I kind of doubt it. I think National Coloring Day was meant to be on one of those rainy days. National Cream-Filled Donut Day. Not my favorite type of donut, but I guess, cream filled. Why is it with donuts and pies? And I get it. There are different types of donuts, certainly different flavors of pies. But can't we just have like a National Donut Day or a National Pie Day instead of, okay, it's Pecan Pie Day, it's Cream-Filled Donut Day? Sometimes I think we overdo the days. Here's one that might not be so overdue. National Day of Remembrance of Aborted Children. National Day of Remembrance of Aborted Children. I don't try to get in a woman's head. For one thing, that could be very dangerous. But when it comes, can you imagine remembering the day you aborted a child? I mean, it happens. It happens. Now, if it was the birth of a child and that child died during childbirth, I think you remember that day. In fact, I believe there's a birthday and there's an actual funeral and stuff like that. And I don't really want to belabor this topic, but National Day of Remembrance of Aborted Children. I'm sure there's a need for it. Well, we got it, whether we need it or don't. National Iguana Awareness Day. Really? We need to be aware of iguanas? I was staying quiet because today is also National Quiet Day. National Quiet Day. No problem for me here. National Sober Day. It's a sobering experience. Whew. Prairie Day. Support Latino Business Day. Here we go again. Latino business. Is there a Support Asian Business Day? Support Caucasian Business Day? Support Black Business Day? Support Women Business Day? Support Men's Business Day? How about Support Business Day? Support Corporate Business Day? Support Small Business Day? Just support business. Please. Nothing against Latinos. Please, don't get me wrong. It's just that we overdo it sometimes. It's like I was saying about National Cream-Filled Donut Day. Let's just support business. It's also World First Aid Day. Whew. Francis Scott Key. Francis Scott Key. He wrote a poem called The Defense of Fort McHenry. He did that in 1814 on this particular date. The defense of Fort Henry later became the Star-Spangled Banner. 1901, Teddy Roosevelt sworn in as President of the United States after President McKinley is assassinated. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries is founded on this date in 1960. 1994, due to a strike, Major League Baseball is canceled. Yeah. I think the season started that year, then a strike ensued, and it never stopped. And I believe at the beginning of 1995, the strike was also underway. 1998, MCI Communications and WorldCom come up together. They figured out how they could dig up $37 billion, and they merged. I think they call themselves MCI WorldCom now. Don't quote me on that. Who knows? They could come up with another $37 billion and change the name. All of this leads me to say, monthly fee RX brings us the Brian's Beat quote of the day. If you're spending less than $20 a month for prescription drugs, great. If not, then our monthly fee RX service might be a good option for you. Check for yourself at monthlyfeerx.com. And our Brian's Beat quote of the day comes from Les Brown. If you don't know Les Brown, he is a motivational speaker, and he was, or may still be, married to Gladys Knight of Gladys Knight and the Pips. Here's the quote. Don't let someone else's opinion of you become your reality. Don't let someone else's opinion of you become your reality. 508-996-0500 is how you get onto the program today. ABC News brought this up. And I remember taking my left hand and scratching the cap on top of my head. And here's why. Apparently, our government has come to the conclusion that there were many mistakes, snafus, leading up to that particular time when a gunman shot at and wounded former President Donald Trump. Really? Like, they didn't cover the roof. They didn't secure it. Really? We needed an extensive government report to tell us what we already knew. Sometimes you can see how these things can be so baffling. Yeah, I guess the Secret Service made some mistakes. How about letting us know, were these mistakes accidental or intentional? How about letting us know, is this something that, if it is accidental, seems to happen on a regular basis? Is that asking too much? I mean, if you're going to do some research, do some damn research. 508-996-0500. I do appreciate your patience. You're first up today. Hello.
Hi, good morning, Brian. How are you?
Brian is. How are you?
Good. So you touched on that hotly, discussed topic, the days you were talking about, and maybe we need to have a remembering the child that you aborted day.
Yes. National Day of Remembrance of Aborted Children.
I'm with you on the theory behind, what we're doing in this country through abortion. I think, too, to add to that, somewhere, I think as a society, we need to fit into the whole discussion some type of abortion education.
How do you do that?
Abortion, I don't know. But I was just putting it out there to whoever's listening. Abortion prevention. How do we get there? How do we prevent as many because abortion, it's a terrible topic and it's heated, and I understand that. But abortion, most women want to have that baby. You know what I mean? As far as I think,
no, I'm listening to you. I'm not even going to try to pretend like I know what you mean. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm a guy. All right. I don't want to put myself in a woman's shoes with this topic, but I'll gladly listen to you.
I'm just saying I'm on board with, like, you're talking about a day of highlighting a certain abortion of the baby that you aborted day. A day, how about society gets and we try to teach somewhere in our education system or through the doctor's offices or through when you enroll for health insurance, we provide flyers to, because there is a lot involved that we're not talking about, like how women end up having unwanted pregnancies. I mean, there is a man involved. There are things that happen behind closed doors that we don't talk about all the time. I ended up getting, pregnant from a man telling me stories about, I won't do that, with you, which the end result of creating a child. So that was my own, what do you call it, stupidity? I don't know what you would call it at that time. Now we're dating back 30 years. But somehow, and some women, they do, abortion gets used as prevention, as birth control. So, the idea of educating, I think, has to play out somewhere in the system. And Education Day.
I'm not going to argue that it should be out there, that type of education. I'm leery of putting it into the, quote, system, because to me, the system, eventually, when you're talking education, all of a sudden, it's taking the place of some other history or mathematics in school. And that scares me a little more.
Yeah,
I think it should be out there. Maybe it's something that in medical school and nursing school, it is taught to those professionals to make sure at some time when you go to a doctor's office, it is taught to you, not only to women, maybe also to men.
Yeah. I think because there's consequences.
You think?
To the whole abortion education, prevention, like you said, a day devoted to the children that women and men together, because there is a man to this, has aborted. And so, yes, and then along those lines is always the prevention, like Abortion Prevention Day, the consequences of prevention, like Planned Parenthood, they give you family planning. These is all after the fact, after it's occurred. I think that would be wonderful if anyone's listening, that they start to teach this issue in a medical school environment. I love that, Brian, and somewhere to talk about this whole issue of pregnancy in women, and it's just horrific. It really is. I mean, and for me, maybe if it was more restricted, I'm not saying I would engage in abortion, but I'm saying maybe if I knew, like, hey, be careful, maybe I would think twice. And after the fact, I learned the lesson.
I think that's what folks really want, is for folks to think twice. But sex, like most things, it's more emotional, heat of the moment type of thing. And obviously condoms can break and birth control might fail. But I don't even know what the percentage is of when birth control did not work properly that led to pregnancy.
Right, and that does happen. I've known people that happened with when they were on the birth control, like a low-dose birth control pill, that type of thing. I mean, it's an issue that we've created in this society, but like to say that we're going to go back to the dark ages of backroom abortions, I think is crazy to think that that's actually going to happen. But I don't see that happening. Whether it's Donald Trump, it's certainly not Kamala Harris or who knows whom. Mm-hmm. And I think that it would just be somewhere the conversation, like you said, the day of this. Well, yes, and somehow we need to teach these young people, not just young people, but women that are able to become, pregnant, and afterwards, like I had, to say to yourself, like before no matter what anyone says to you as a woman, it is your body, but let's try to prevent these negative consequences to our body and say, don't, Brian, I'm going to say it. Don't sleep with a man that you don't want to father your children. So whoever's on the radio, like really, like as an adult now, I would say to myself, before you think of doing the deed, do I want to take that chance? Because the consequences of that is going to be I'm going to have a child with somebody that maybe not a great father.
Don't you think most women, when they're having that conversation, it comes out like that? But once again, it's a heat of the moment. It's an emotional thing, and emotions take over common sense. And there's no such thing as common sense. But At any rate, hey, thanks for the call.
Okay, thanks,
I do
Brian.
appreciate it. 508, nice call there. 508-996-0500. That's how you get onto the program today. Jim is in Studio 6 and 7/8. He's got a preview of tomorrow's Town Square Sunday coming up. I don't know if you've been keeping an eye out on this, but there were the school shootings that we had last week, and then some idiot, 17 years old, we're told, decided to bring a gun up to one of the Fall River schools. He got caught. And the Democrats here in our state, they think they have a solution. They're calling for more gun control. And that's going to improve school safety. Your thoughts, 508-996-0500. My thought, real quick, ain't going to work. Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, Bri. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you, young man?
Young man. Well, I appreciate
Young man.
that, but yeah. I mean, I turned 64 last August. I keep thinking I'm 63. So, when you start forgetting how old you are, that's a bad sign.
Oh, man. I've been doing the 1 year ahead of me for the last few months, so I know where you're coming from.
Right. Well, I wasn't prepared for your new topic of guns in schools, but that, you can... It's sort of like Trump saying we're going to take all the illegal aliens out of the country by saying we're going to ban guns. They can come to your house to take them too, but you're not going to get all the guns, and you're not going to. That's not going to prevent school shootings. Unfortunately, I think you need to look at schools like they're banks and say, look, we're going to create a perimeter, we're going to create a checkpoint, and then once you get inside that, you're in a safe school, or safe as you can make it. And that last shooting that we had in Georgia, they had resource officers right on top of the scene. The kid gave up. Could have been that the kid got killed, but he didn't get as far as he could have because they had resource officers, which you don't hear at all in the dialogue about this. And there's other things. They missed a few things that kid got into that Georgia school. But that being said,
wasn't he a student there?
No, he was a student, but getting the gun in.
That doesn't seem to be a hard thing, whether they have metal detectors or not.
No, I get it. But the school resource officer was on the scene. It wasn't like Uvalde in Texas where they were debating it and building resources. But in the meantime, people were getting killed. So anyway,
gotcha. On
the abortion thing, obviously I'm a male.
Are you?
I think so. Most of the time. But
young man.
I guess I two things. One is, what do you think about the fact that Maura Healey ran a series of ads sponsored and paid for by the state of taxes from the state of Massachusetts that were anti-pregnancy centers ads that came out about, I don't think it was in the middle of the summer. She started running these ads saying, beware, don't go to these pregnancy centers. They're not going to talk you into an abortion. They may talk you away from an abortion or health care. In the meantime, you've got Planned Parenthood running wild, and there's no check and balance in Planned Parenthood. I mean, they're a major contributor to the Democratic Party, so that's never going to go away. But
I will debate one thing. There are a lot of checks when it comes to Planned Parenthood. Yeah. I think that's an inappropriate use of tax dollars. Not that what she is saying is right or wrong. Once again, do we want, in this particular case, the governor of the Commonwealth to be soliciting folks to not do something that is legal to do?
Yeah, well, again, I think, when whether you want to call it misinformation, disinformation, bottom line is when you go to a college for information one way or another. You could be conservative, liberal, whatever you want, but you go into a college to learn something in an open format. having a pregnancy center, you're going to learn something. They're not going to make you have an abortion there. They're not going to make you not have an abortion there. You still walk out of the place to make a decision.
Exactly.
So that, to me, I think that Maura Healey's an evil person for this sort of thing, because what the reverse is to force people into Planned Parenthood, which, let's face it, they will lean towards talking about abortions. If you walk in the door, they're assuming that you're not there to Planned Parenthood. You're there to plan for not parenthood.
I thank you for saying that, because I can recall back in the 1980s, my then wife's sister, we were in a car driving by a Right to Life place. I had no idea that's what it was at that particular time. And she made a comment about that particular place, saying that it was an anti-abortion place. And I had no clue. It was just,
Right.
a building that talked about reproductive whatever. It's been 40 years. But I remember thinking that, well, if that's what was going on 40 years ago, I would like to believe that now, if somebody is walking into an establishment like that, they have a general idea. And if they're smart enough to think that they want an abortion or need an abortion, and they walk into a place like that, they know how to turn around and walk out. And maybe, just maybe, after listening to some of those folks in that establishment use their persuasion techniques, they might decide that they indeed want to have a baby. People have options.
Right. And we have more options now, post-pregnancy. You can tell actually pretty quick now, I guess. It's been a while for me that you're pregnant. The pregnancy tests are even more accurate and sooner. And not that you should be testing yourself every day or whatever, but if you've, had sex, that, there's the possibility. So, and then you've got all sorts of options, pills and different things. That,
the morning after, whatever. More
I
things than when you and I were kids.
Well, I'll just say this, that the abortion procedure, I think is important, because there are people that, for the, rape, incest, life of the mother, all these things are important that are connected to an abortion procedure. But I think that what's happened is that just like surgery is really important for a lot of reasons, but now they're doing surgery. They're doing surgery on kids to change their gender at a sub 14 years old. That to me is a barbarism issue. And I think that, when we talk about abortion, it's like we all get into a room together, that's the door says abortion, and then we have these formed discussions that exist today. But the fact is, if we step outside the room and get at 30,000 feet, maybe in 100 years or 200 years from now, they'll look back at this time and say, we were the most barbarous people. We killed babies, when we were just trying to deal with a pregnancy issue, and there's another way to do this, or there's another way to approach this, or an education that, like you said, it begins at conception. Actually, the woman that called, and she's actually approaching it from the right angle, which is, but yeah, I think there's a whole barbarism to things that get out of control, whether it's abortion or surgeries or whatever else you want to say. But
I got you.
Yeah.
Got you, man. Have a good one.
Have a good Saturday.
It's going to be an excellent Saturday.
All right.
Hopefully, I'll stay in the cave.
I'm getting an offer on my house on Monday, so it's going to be maybe a better Monday.
You're selling it already.
I've got to go, dude. I've been telling you.
Well, quicker than me. All right, man. Thanks for the call.
Yeah.
508-996-0500. When we come back, Jim Phillips. I said when we come back, Jim Phillips. Okay. All right, Jim, you win. We can do it now. Let's go over to Studio 6 and 7/8 for Town Square Sunday Update.
Morning, Brian. Good morning, everyone. Here's what's happening this week on Town Square Sunday. learn how a New Bedford infant diagnosed with a rare liver disease is battling to survive and what friends are doing to ease the burden on the family. We'll also talk community outreach with Marcy Pina Christian, who serves as director for the New Bedford Human Rights Commission, and Cheryl Duclos of the Face-to-Face Mediation Service. And we'll chat with Helena Tavares of Fall River. She's organized a comedy show to raise money to purchase a service dog for her 13-year-old daughter who's living with epilepsy. So join me for Town Square Sunday, Sunday morning at 6 on 1420 WBSM and 99.5 FM.
Thank you, Jim. Let's do this now since we have heard from Jim. It is time now for the Bitcoin Business Barometer, where we measure the universal crypto marketplace. Toncoin has overtaken Tron for the 7th slot. Toncoin coming in this morning at $5. Since it wasn't there last week, can't say if it's plus or minus. Dogecoin in the 6th position. It's up a penny from last week at 10 cents now. XRP, 57 cents. That's a nickel higher than it was last week at this time. Solana, $10 more than last week at this time, coming in at $137. Binance Coin at $553. That's $70 more than last week. Ethereum is up $141, coming in at $2,421. And Bitcoin up more than $5,700 from last week at this time, coming in at $60,068. $60,068. And that's your Bitcoin Biz Barometer for today, September 14th, 2024. As always, I get my numbers from CoinMarketCap.com. All right, let's get back to our program today. I was looking for another story, something that I had heard about earlier in the week, and I couldn't find it. Basically, that's what it comes down to. But in my quest to find that story, this one popped up. And it's interesting considering our calls today have been centered around the fact that today just happens to be National Day of Remembrance of Aborted Children Day. CVS pharmacies, CVS pharmacies can now prescribe birth control here in the Commonwealth. All 400 CVS locations, and I know that they've been closing down a few. All 400 CVS locations across Massachusetts will now offer birth control prescriptions. This must be their angle at staying more viable within the pharmacy industry. Then as I read the story, I said, wow. Bacon Hill lawmakers allotted for a statewide birth control prescription service as part of the state budget. Whew. State Representative Lindsay Sabadosa said, Massachusetts patients deserve access to birth control. With the addition of pharmacist-prescribed contraception in Massachusetts, we are putting choice back in the patient's hands and giving them options in how, where, and when they get their contraception. That's what she said during, and she being a Representative Sabadosa of Northampton. She said this. I did not realize that patients didn't have access. We are now putting choice back in the patient's hands. That statement leads me to believe that, well, it was out of their hands. If you're putting it back in their hands. Now you go to a CVS, and I'm sure it will happen. I'm just having a hard time putting this together, and maybe I should because I'm a male and not a female. But I can't imagine a young woman, even an older woman, older but still old enough to bear children, standing in line at CVS, whether they're people in front or behind, and say, can we go over here to the corner? I want to talk to you about something. I'd like to talk to you about contraception. And, so now they're having this conversation, and the pharmacists can come up with choices, and the patient can make decisions as the patient wants to make her decision. I didn't see anything in this story about male contraception, just to bring that up, because I guess the preferred method for guys is to use a condom. The second method would be snip, snip. And you're not going to the pharmacist to talk about snip, snip. So I would like to, again, maybe I am out there in left field during a football game, but I would like to believe that a woman who's talking about what's going to be the best contraceptive for her to use would prefer to talk to her doctor or nurse practitioner or physician assistant. But to go to the pharmacist, to talk to the pharmacist about this? Again, I know there are women listening. So help me out with this story, please, because I'm probably out, like I said, out there in left field during a football game. But I find it hard to believe. Well, you know what? It's another option. Leave it at that. Okay, you got another option. 508-996-0500. Thank you. Good morning.
All right, what are we talking about this morning? We talking about...
What are you talking about?
I don't know, I heard something about guns in schools and liberals.
Yeah, well, you didn't hear anything about liberals, but you did hear about Democrats and definitely guns in schools.
Well, if you're talking about liberal Democrats...
They don't have to be liberal Democrats. They can be progressive Democrats. They could be mainstream Democrats.
Yeah, but I notice moderate Democrats are more gun-friendly.
Maybe. I didn't say moderate, though. I'm just saying, liberal Democrat, there are a lot of folks that are liberal out there.
Blue-collar Democrat, that like union stuff like that, they'd be gun-friendly. If you're talking about these weirdos today, their plans aren't going to work to protect the school.
I think that's where you need to go with it. Are they going to protect it? Look, you could have Republicans coming out with something similar, and you're not calling them liberal Republicans.
Nah, I can't wait to call them.
Well, that's all right. Here's the main thing. In the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you have the elected body that from here that goes down to Washington that are pushing for more gun controls as a solution. Is it a good idea or a bad idea? I don't think it's going to work.
It's not going to work because they're getting these guns off the fucking... excuse me.
Thank you for your call. I do appreciate it. I guess sometimes people get lost in the heat of conversation. But I don't believe it's going to work. If you're wondering what happened we heard an F-bomb, and we had to make sure that you didn't hear that F-bomb. So thank you for your call anyway. Just clean up the language, man. This is radio. This is a real McCoy. But I get your point. You don't think it's going to work. And I don't think it's going to work. It happens to be the Democrats that represent Massachusetts down in Washington. I'll give you some of the comments. How about up for re-election, Senator Warren? I'm heartsick by the school shooting in Atlanta where mamas and daddies still don't know if their kids are safe, where another class of students have had their lives shattered by gun violence. How many more people have to die before Congress acts? What do you expect Congress to do? People have a right to carry arms, and yet there are places where guns are prohibited. Schools are one of those places. And yet, somehow, some way, a kid, in this particular case, Atlanta, 14 years old, at Waltham High School last week, a kid tried to sneak in a copycat gun. Kids are doing this. Kids are doing this. So what kind of legislation, Senator Warren, do you think Congress can come up that's going to stop it from happening? My ears are burning trying to figure it out. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, one of the squad, she brings up a shooting that happened in Dorchester. The barbershop shooting in Dorchester and the shooting at Appalachia High School are heartbreaking, and they're a reminder that gun violence remains a public health crisis. We need meaningful gun violence prevention legislation to save lives and stop the cycle of trauma. Don't you love those lines? Meaningful gun violence prevention legislation. Well, you draw up something, Congresswoman Pressley. Let's see what you can come up with that may or may not work. Senator Markey, we have to put an end to this devastating epidemic of gun violence. I think we all want to do away with the gun violence, but we don't want to do away with guns. Governor Healy, she also weighed in. Just days into the new school year, and already more lives lost to another senseless, preventable act of gun violence. This is not normal. Our students and educators deserve to be safe in the classroom. Once again, maybe it's something to do with the schools. These are happening at schools, whether inside the classroom, in the hallways, in the bathrooms. They seem to be happening at school. Why don't we do something about the schools? Is that asking too much? Attorney General Andrea Campbell, she also weighed in. There are people in Georgia who hugged their families goodbye this morning and who won't come home this evening. As a mom, my heart aches and I'll pray for them. Yet we know thoughts and prayers don't stop bullets. As demonstrated in Massachusetts, common sense gun laws work and reduce instances of gun violence. Common sense gun laws work. Oh, really? How did it work in Waltham? How did it stop a football game from being canceled last week? Common sense gun laws work. Welcome back. 508-996-0500 ABC coming up at the top of the hour. Little Compton, 62 degrees. Mattapoisett, 60. New Bedford, 61. And thank you, SouthCoast Towing. Got to thank SouthCoast Towing. They make the WBSM app free, so you can download it onto your smartphone and listen to us in the car. You know, you're traveling up in the Worcester area. You want to find out what's going on at home. Use the WBSM app because it comes in clear as a bell. I remember, I think it was in April, I was heading out to North Adams, far northwestern corner of the Commonwealth. And I was able to listen to Chris McCarthy and Barry. I wasn't listening to Tim at the time. Not that I wasn't listening to Tim, but I was just checking out the app. And those are the two shows that I happened to catch at that particular time. So SouthCoast Towing, thank you. Thank you very, very much. Attorney General Andrea Campbell says she will continue to push for gun reform for all of us because our kids deserve better. Can you picture what gun reform would be necessary? Because our kids deserve better. We don't allow children or even adults to bring guns into schools.